sweet Jesus.
That's rad.
Hi friends, just wanted to sort of do a bit of a different video this week, but thanks to Ubisoft ANZ, I got some hands-on with the new update DLC release, if you will, the last one for 2024 in Year 9 of Rainbow Six Siege, with Operation Collision Point. Now, again, thanks to my friends at Ubisoft ANZ, they invited me into sort of a closed server to take a look at the new rework for Blackbeard that's coming along, as well as some sort of news that's coming to Siege as well. And before I get to sort of the Blackbeard remaster with my hands on, what I thought about it, some new updates with this sort of DLC, if you will, with Operation Collision Point is, firstly, we are getting crossplay between PC and console players, which I think is pretty cool. And sort of some of the questions you might have is, how the hell is a controller going to be able to keep up with a mouse and keyboard? And thankfully, there are cross-play pools. So if you are playing on Xbox and you don't want to play against PC players, you can switch that off. And I think that's really, really cool, where if you just want to sort of just keep with your console matchmaking and just have fun with mates all using controllers, go for it. That's cool. However though, for those of you, and I know there are some people out there that use a mouse and keyboard while playing on console, basically cheating, if you are caught doing this in Siege on consoles and such like that, then the matchmaking will apparently catch you and then put you into PC matchmaking. So if you're using a mouse and keyboard, playing it on Xbox or PlayStation and using that sort of mouse trap thing or whatever it's called to sort of hack into the system so you can use a mouse and keyboard to play Siege on a console, well then, if you're caught doing this, you're getting a 90-day hard place into PC-only matchmaking, or 100 games, whatever comes first. And I think that's pretty cool, where it's like, hey dude, if you want to play Siege on console, fine, use a controller. If you want to use a mouse and keyboard to sort of win, well guess what, you're going to play with the big boys on PC and see how well you go. With that as well though, is Siege is also introducing cheat match cancellation. So if you're in a ranked match and someone on the opposing team is caught cheating and they're banned, you'll get this notification that will come up on your screen saying the match has been cancelled and legitimate players won't be punished for this. So that's kind of a cool thing, where if someone on the enemy team is cheating in ranked games, they will just basically cancel the match, send everyone back to the menu, and then you boot up for another match without sort of the person who's been caught cheating. With that too, as well, or as an extra thing that the devs are doing, is they are looking hard with a new sort of software, if you will, that will go through the text messages that are sent in games. Now this isn't overly a thing in, say, console gaming, but when it comes to PC, there is the team-only chat, there is the all-game chat where you can type whatever the hell you want to type, and sort of playing in Australian servers, it can get pretty toxic. Playing in US servers, I haven't necessarily found that to be the case in some instances. Most of the time, it's Australian guys saying things they shouldn't be saying to be edgy and cool. So, what they're doing is, if you're caught sending a message that is toxic, it will be flagged and it won't be sent. So, that's kind of a cool thing. Personally, when I play Siege, I generally have the text chat off because I'm playing with mates in a party chat anyway, so we're just talking to each other. But it is a bit of a Wild West situation sometimes with that party chat, or with the sort of the in-game text chat, if you will. On top of this too, with Operation Collision Point, there is a Maestro Elite skin that they're dropping. It looks pretty cool. Whether you're into Elite skins or not, totally up to you. I think it looks cool. It's not a theming that's necessarily like it's a Resident Evil skin or it's a Halo skin. It is its own sort of in-depth kind of thing. We're also getting some new improved sort of matchmaking team balancing. So the system will sort of, when you go into matchmaking, it will look at the skill level of opposing players and you and match them up in conjunction with a system that they've called the Phantom Player. So if you squad up with a full 5 stack of friends, or maybe 3 mates and 2 randoms, the system will then look at the skill player for each level and then try to match you up with your opponents of the same skill level. Where previously, if you had high ranked tier friends in your squad, you'd be matched with the high tiered players and you'd struggle. Where now it looks like it'll try to match players with the opposing skill sets of each other. So if you've got sort of 2 golds, a bronze, and a silver, it will try to look for someone who is that sort of same skill level. So you sort of all have a bit of fun. On top of that too, there are some balancing updates that they've done for Sens, Ying, as well as some shield operators, and it's been a bit of a hot minute since I jumped back into Rainbow Six Siege, but they also look like they've done some sort of drone jumping guides where you can toggle it on and off, and it will give you sort of a bit of a, sort of like a grenade arc throw of if you jump with your drone while you're moving at this speed or looking at this direction, this is where you're going to land. And I think that's kind of cool. It eliminates a bit of that, hey, you know, let's just, I want to try and get on top of that speaker hiding in this room. What's the best way to do it? But the trade-off for this is you need to wait for that sort of half a second, if you will, for the actual guide to come up to show you, hey, if you jump like this, this is where it's going to go, and that leaves you exposed to getting shot by defenders. So that's kind of cool. But the main thing as well is shield operators. You can now melee shield operators to perform a guard break. Now think of it sort of like a stamina bar, if you will, that if you're holding up a shield and using it as a shield, if you're getting shot at or if you're getting melee, there's sort of a bit of a stamina bar that will start to fill. And once it's full, damage will just sort of straight go through it. Imagine it like you're actually holding a shield, holding back gunfire. You're going to sort of get tired a little bit. I don't mind that. It was kind of annoying where you'd be defending, then there'd just be a really annoying Monty just sitting there going like, yeah, you can't do anything about that. Shield bashes are also reducing in damage. It's gone from 65 to 0. So if you have a shield, you cannot bash an enemy to death with it. You will need to work together with your team. It's not just running in as blitz, blocking everything, whacking them twice in the head, keep running kind of thing. So they've gotten rid of the shield bash damage completely, which I don't necessarily mind, because defenders, when there's 3 shields or 4 shields as attackers, it's kind of annoying. But they're also looking, or they also are doing updates for Ying. So Ying's gadgets now will actually have a larger window before they activate. So if you throw her sort of flashbang grenade item in, if you will, it will wait that little bit longer before it actually detonates. So it lets defenders shoot them out. With Sens, their gadget is that light wall that's a bit of a yo-yo that they roll around, if you will, and now you can actually toggle the light on that sort of beam, if you will, on and off at will. So you can roll it out, be like, yep, it's ready to go. Defenders see you, bang, just turn it on. So then that way you can just give yourself immediate cover without actually activating the light straight away. They are also doing some long-term progressions in with a new system, which is like badges, basically. So badges will like act as pins that will go to your player card. So when you've sort of picked your operators and you're in the loading screen waiting for the game to load, there'll be badges sort of pinned to your operators. It's cool. I don't really think it's my kind of thing, but you can sort of highlight your acolytes, if you will, or accolades. But the big thing with Operation Collision Point is the Blackbeard rework. He now no longer has a shield that just sort of clips in front of his gun. He has a collapsible shield and can use a rifle. But when he uses the rifle to shoot, he lowers the front end of his shield and uses it as a bit of a brace, and it exposes his head. So think of it a little bit like Blitz in that he has he's got a bulletproof shield. But when you use the gun, it drops the shield to actually shoot. So he's sort of a mix between having an actual gun and having it being a shield operator. But the kicker is he doesn't have a secondary item anymore. So he doesn't actually have his Desert Eagle. So it's literally the rifles, the shield, that's it. There's nothing else that he has with that. He's got like, your claymores or your grenades or your sort of your throwables, but he doesn't have a secondary pistol. He's got no pistol. The thing to note with this as well is his shield also has sort of like this gas charge system in it, if you will, that sort of acts a little bit like Onyx, the Kool-Aid Man Defender, where he can breach through non-hardened surfaces. So if there's just a plaster wall or a wooden barricade, you can sort of charge up the shield and run through it. It is on a limited use, and it's got a cooldown as well, so you can't just constantly keep spamming it. It is kind of cool. So he's a little bit like Blitz, and he's a little bit like Onyx, but he's got a rifle. This video isn't sort of my normal scripted thing. This is me having a bit of fun, like getting excited with, the new Siege stuff. This is the last DLC before we go into year 10 years of Siege. And I got some hands-on time with Blackbeard. There are some things I noted and found as well. Again, no Desert Eagle, but having a assault rifle that you can put your long scopes on, You can put your reflex, whatever sort of scopes and shit like that you want to put on it. Having the drop of the front of the shield, basically just to expose the gun and to expose Blackbeard's head, you need... I feel like it's probably more easier on PC than it is necessarily on console, but you can't really shoot Blackbeard then in the body at all. You need to go for the head, and if you're a defender who's using a shield and you see Blackbeard at the end of a corridor, it's kind of game over. Like, at least where if you saw Blackbeard at the end of a corridor, traditional, you know, Blackbeard with the bulletproof shield in front of his face, you could get some pot shots off at his body and then run, where now it's like, cool, if you see Blackbeard coming, if you've got a shotgun, you can't do anything. You have to wait for him to get close or swap to your pistol, and by the time you swap to your pistol, he might have already popped you off in the head. So it's I kind of like the rework, but I kind of don't. I honestly don't know many people who use Blackbeard as their main, and I don't know how it's going to go with having a operator who could basically protect their most sensitive area, being their head, now going from, well, all of my body is protected and my head's exposed when I shoot. And it's the way that the devs explained it was, you are exposing the most, you know, the weakest part of your character in your head. You are trading like for like. So if my head's exposed to shoot you with a rifle, if your head's exposed just from like peeking around a corner, then the Blackbeard operator's head's exposed because they are lowering the front of their shield to aim. And it's not like a lowering like, say, where you play as Monty and he sort of turns the shield sideways and rests his gun on it. It's sort of like this big glass shield slides down on pistons. Oh, pistons, is that what I'm thinking of? But like, it actually slides down in front of the shield, then you shoot and then it flips back up. Some also things to note as well is when you reload as Blackbeard, you expose yourself when you have your shield up. So rather than just reloading behind the shield, he actually sort of completely opens his, you know, his front facing version of his, you know, portion of his body to reload while the left hand side of him is safe and covered by that shield. So I feel like if you're peeking into doorways or you've exposed a wall and you're going to reload, turn sideways. Because when you turn sideways, you'll then cover yourself as you reload. Look, the only other thing I found as well with playing as Blackbeard is because he doesn't have that secondary pistol, he's just got his rifle and his shield, you can actually sort of unequip the shield, if you will. You can put the shield on your back and then just run around with a rifle, sort of like you normally would. But Blackbeard's shield does have that shield stamina bar, if you will. So now with my hands on with Blackbeard though, I did do this sort of in a closed system, playing basically against the dummies, if you will, that will just basically teach you map layout and how much damage you take and where you're shooting them, so on and so forth. And I wanted to do some testing to see like, hey, will Blackbeard's shield start to go down if he takes a lot of fire? And yeah, it does. The glass in the front of it cracks as well, which I think is really cool. But I didn't play this on a live server. I didn't play this with my mates who are massively into Siege. Or I didn't play this with my mates who are not massively into Siege and they like Call of Duty, but they will sort of jump on here and there just to sort of play some different games. And I'm interested to see their thoughts, not only as if they use Blackbeard, but also sort of how they encounter when their defenders going up against a Blackbeard. I think that's probably more of an interesting one of... some people might find it cheap that only his head's exposed, and some people I know aren't quick to sort of go for the head. Some people just pick the auto shotty and wait for people to walk past and spray and pray. That's completely fine. Some people don't use shotguns at all, or some people just stick with their pistols. And I think it's going to be interesting where you've got an attacker who has a rifle and a shield, and they just expose their head to use the rifle, where the previous version of Blackbeard, the original one, was, yeah, his head's covered, but the rest of his body isn't. Only his head was covered by that bulletproof shield. That could actually break, and you can forget to swap it out sometimes, so you've just got the frame sitting on it, and his whole body's exposed. So it's like, look, if you point blank in front of Blackbeard with a shotgun at the old school original Blackbeard, you take him out. But now it's like, now he's actually gonna block a lot of that damage, and then he's going to expose his head and shoot. So it's kind of weird, but I do want to take this quick second as well to thank Ubisoft ANZ for asking if I'd like to take a look at the new Blackbeard rework. Now, next year is 10 years of Rainbow Six Siege, and I will be doing a video on this. I've loved Siege since, not only when it originally released, but I sort of had that resurgence sort of around when they had, probably I think when Maestro released is when I properly sort of started getting back into it. And then I've actually made some really cool mates who love playing Siege, and they're sort of really helpful. It's a lot of fun playing with them, all that sort of stuff like that. They constantly teach me new things, and I have loads of clips saved aside for it. So next year, I'm going to do this big 10 years of Siege, how the game's changed, the things they've changed that I like, the things they've changed that I don't like. But so far with Operation Collision Point, I think it's kind of safer, if you will, to rework an old operator and just make some quality of life changes, rather than keep giving us new operators constantly. Sort of like when they did that Operation Health, I think it was called, way back in when, in like, I think it was like 2016, where they did this like massive like refresh to the game with sort of fixing some things. It's kind of nice to see the devs go, well, hang on, let's stop making new, operators constantly. Let's go back, let's listen to the community, let's fix what's going on. Let's make some more game modes if we want to make some more game modes, or let's make some more maps or do some reworks, have a bit of fun with it. Let's introduce some random cool elite skins, like those Resident Evil skins are pretty cool, like, look, I'll say. But Rainbow Six Siege Operation Collision Point, it's coming out now. It's pretty, if it's not already out now that you've been watching it, it's coming out pretty damn soon. Thank you again to Ubisoft ANZ for letting me get some hands-on and play this, because it's sort of rekindled me to be like, you know what, Siege is better than Call of Duty every single year. And Siege is, somewhat, I wouldn't say somewhat better, but like Battlefield is a war game, where Call of Duty is a sort of, it's 5 on 5 or 10 on 10. It's just, running around, shooting quick, being goofy kind of thing. Where Siege is like, if you get good at Siege, you are good at a lot of other shooters. And the only other game that comes to mind when it comes to like Siege as a first-person shooter is Ready or Not, which is just PvE Siege, and it's good shit anyway. But if you're looking forward to Operation Collision Point, if you're not a fan of what they're going to do to Blackbeard, hit me down in the comments below, because I'm really keen to see what some proper Siege, like, massive Siege fans and massive Siege nerds think about this new operator update, because I think some people are going to be happy, some people aren't going to be happy. That's just the nature of games sometimes. But I'm looking forward to when it fully drops, because I want to play with my mates who are massive into Siege and see, sort of get their clips as they go as well. But whether you've been playing Siege for nearly 10 years now, or this is your first year playing Rainbow Six Siege, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.